Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. So today we are going to see something more important topic with respect to Docker. So what we are going to do is we are going to see in this tutorial how we can manage volumes in dockerswarm. So if you have seen my last tutorial, we have seen how to set up NFS share. So I have shown you how to install a NFS server on a CentOS machine and how to mount a volume in a normal machine, right? So we are going to make use of that NFS share and create a Docker volume, and we are going to attach that into a Docker service which will be running in a dockerswarm. Okay, so that will be the overall process we'll be doing in this tutorial. So before I get into the real hands-on, I would request you to subscribe to my channel if you have not done yet. Okay, to start with, if you remember, we have a NFS machine which we have created. So if I run the systemctl status NFS server, so you can see I already have an NFS server running on this machine, right? So this machine I'll be using as a share. So if I go to the location NFS, so if you see already I have a folder called NFS. So let me go to the folder NFS, and I have another folder called data, right? So if I go back to data, so I don't have any information or any content in this folder, but I'll be using this data folder to map it to our Docker containers as a Docker volume. Okay, so another one of the settings what you have to do is if you go to /etc exports, you have to give the access for your Docker nodes using this command. So in the previous tutorial I have this 145 IP address. Now I have added this 130 and 131. Okay, so if you don't give this access, you will not be able to access your node server from your NFS machine. So you can see the IP address is 130 for this node 1. Okay, so I have this machine. I have a dockerswarm setup, and if you see, I have a 3 nodes and one node is down. Okay, because I have not turned on those nodes, and I have 2 nodes running, node 1 and node 2. Okay, so those 2 nodes I'll be using, and node 1 is the manager in it. So if you don't know how to set up dockerswarm or NFS, please check my tutorial. I will link them all those details in the video description, and all the commands which I'll be using in this tutorial in the video description. Okay, so now if you see like how to list volumes, is you can go to docker volume ls, right? So these are some volumes. I have it in this node. Okay, so these I have used for Laravel, NG, and XWeb. So this is not what we are going to use it. So, and if I go and list the service, I don't have any service running, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a normal service first, and let me show you when I call for a Docker volume in that service, it will create the volume in node 1 and also in other nodes which are connected to the dockerswarm. But the challenge would be like we don't know when we access that service, it can go to any of those nodes and where the data is getting written, right? So since there is no relationship between the volume on this node and the other node, it's both separate. So if you make some changes in one of the node volume, it will not be getting replicated on the other node. Okay, so I'm going to create a new service which is called db. Okay, so if you see this command, it's a docker service create, and the name of the service called db. I'm going to use a network called my network, and I'm going to use this parameter called mount rather than using -v. Okay, so this is the better options to do it, because we can use volume or it can be a bind mount. Okay, so I'm going to use a docker on volume. Okay, so docker managed volume, so that's why the type is volume, and the source name is called db_data, and the target or the location from the container which is going to get mapped to the Docker volume is this one. Okay, and this is a Postgres password, and I'm going to use two replica. Okay, and this is the Postgres image. So let me run this. So we'll wait for the service to be created. Okay, so we are waiting for the service to be verified. Okay, so we have the service created. So now if you go and list the service, we have a service created, right? And if I expand with the Docker service ps and db, you can see one of container is running on node 1, another one is on node 2. Okay, so if I run docker ps here, there is one container running, and if I go to my node, and here there is another container running. Okay, so let me check the Docker volume here as well. So now I have a Docker volume under db underscore data here, and there will be one on my other node as well. Okay, so you can see one is over here as well. So you know this normal Docker volume is located under val lib slash Docker volumes and the volume name, right? db underscore data and underscore data. So now you see this all data is here. Okay, and the same location, if you go in the other node, here also you have the data for your Postgres database, right? So now the challenge would be like you can access the Postgres database or any service which you're running. Now we have two volumes in two nodes, right? So if you have more than nodes, there will be multiple volume. Now if you want to make some changes, for example, I'm going to create a new file here. Okay, so you can see I can see it in this volume. So but if I go here, I will not be able to see that change here. So what happened is there will be a discrepancy, you know, whenever when you access this application, when the connection goes to one of the node, you will see a different set of data, and if it goes to other node, you will get a different set of data. So in order to do this, what we have to do is all the volumes should be mapped to the same location. So how we can do that is using an NFS share. It's one of the options. So you can map these volumes into an NFS share. So let's see how we can do that. Okay, so let me clear out the screen, and let me also delete this service first. Okay, so I'm going to remove this service. Okay, and I will also remove the volumes. Okay, so now what we have to do is, as we discussed, so we have set up the NFS share, right? So here if you see the location is going to be /root NFS, and we have a folder called data. Okay, so what we are going to do is /root/NFS/data. We are going to map that as a Docker volume in our Docker machines. Okay, because it's a dockerswarm and we have two nodes now here. So if you have multiple nodes, you have to do the same step in all machines. So before that, you know, one of pre-check what you can do is whether you are able to access the NFS to this your Docker nodes. Okay, and how you can do that is now you can see there is no share connected to my machine. So you can mount the location. So this is my NFS share server, and this is the path, and this is the path on this machine. So if I run this, it's getting mounted, right? So you can see it's mounted here, and I can unmount it. So in case if you're facing some challenges, what you have to do is, I think you may not have the prerequisite for the client as well, so you need to install the NFS common utilities on the client. Okay, so that also I have explained in my NFS tutorial, so you can go and check that. We can unmount it. So if I go and click now, I don't have that share mount up. Okay, so now let's see what is the command to create a Docker volume. So if I see I don't have a Docker volume for db_data, right? So we need to create a Docker volume now. So the command start as usual, we have to use Docker volume create, and we have to give the driver, which is going to be local, and give a name for the your Docker volume, which is going to be db_data. I'm sorry, I think we have pressed enter, so we have to delete that Docker volume now. Docker volume ls. So let me remove that volume rmdb. Okay, so let me start from here. It's going to be db_data. Okay, and now I have added few configurations. So this is something new for us, right? So we are giving some options, like we are going to use a type of NFS, which is the options we have mentioned here, and we have another option which is called device, and the device which is getting mapped to root NFS data. This is the location from the NFS share, and this option is for the address. So this is the IP address of your NFS server, and this one is to tell read, write, and no log. So this gives the access for our Docker user ID to make some changes on this NFS share. Okay, so this is the overall command which you can run. Okay, so if you run this, it should create a Docker volume. Okay, so if you see, it has created a Docker volume. Okay, so let's see what we can do. So if you go to Docker volume ls, we have a Docker volume called db_data. Okay, now before I create in the other server, I just want to create using this volume. Let me create a normal Docker container. Okay, so we can try to create a normal Docker container and attach this volume to that rather than using a service. So it can be Docker container run -name db, and we can mount the volume as type volume, and the path will be db_data. Okay, and I'm going to map this location from Postgres and the password, and okay, so I'm just creating a normal container. Okay, so now if you see, when I try to create, I just wanted to show you this, that's why I try to create a container. Okay, it says failed to mount the local volume. Okay, so it says no or route to host. Okay, so this one of the reason will be because the port numbers, or the connection is blocked in the firewall, but here that is not the case, because we already have NFS and SSH open in the firewall. Okay, so this issue I have found out, and the solution I found is, rather than using NFS here, it should be NFS 4. Okay, so let me delete the Docker volume first. Okay, so Docker volume rm_data. Okay, so if you go to Docker volume ls, we don't have that one. Okay, now let me create the same Docker volume again, and I'm going to queue the option as NFS 4. Okay, so you see the difference is we are giving NFS 4. Okay, so previous time it was only just NFS, so it was documented in Docker documentation as well, but this one I was able to find the solution in the forums. Okay, so let me create this one now. Okay, and then we will map this to our container. Okay, so this Docker container, I'm going to map this now. Now if you see, this container is created, right? Docker container ls, you can see the Postgres container is running using this db. Okay, if you go to cd slash or slash lib slash docker volume and db underscore data you can see the content is there, and at the same time if you go to your NFS machine, okay, if you see the content is over here as well, right? So this is the location, and we can see the content is over here as well. Okay, so now that means, you know, whatever content from your Docker node is mapped to your NFS share. Okay, now this is only for one container. Let's create it for a service. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete the containers again. Okay. So Docker container rm db. Okay, so I'm going to force this. Okay, so that is deleted. In Docker volume ls, I'm going to delete Docker volume and db underscore data. Okay. And I'm going to clear this NFS location as well. Okay, so we don't have anything over here as well. So I have to create the volume again. So it should be Docker volume. Yep, this command, right? So I'm just going to copy this because I need to create the same one in the other node as well. So this is going to be again Docker volume create. Driver is going to be local. And the name is db underscore data, and the type is NFS4. Okay, just make sure that it's NFS4, and this is the location from the NFS and the IP address of your NFS server. And read write no log. If you don't give this one, then your Docker machine may not be able to write the content into the NFS. Okay, so I have created the one over here. So Docker MLS, you can see the content on node 1. Okay, let me go to node 2. Okay, and I'm going to create same thing over here as well using this command. Okay, I'm going to go to node 2, and I'm going to create Docker volume here as well. Okay, so I have a Docker volume here as well. Okay. Now the point is we can create a Docker service with multiple replica. Okay, so let me run this command. It's again Docker service create, and that's the name of the service. I'm going to use my network and attaching the volume. Okay, so here the volume is db underscore data, but this time it's not going to create the own Docker volume, because we have already created db underscore data as a NFS linked volume, right? If you change this name to a different one, then it will create a new one, and it's not going to help us. So give the same name as what you created linked with the NFS. Okay, so let me run this. So we have to wait for the service to be created. Okay, so it's almost completed. Okay, so we have the Docker service ls, so we have that created, and if you go and check where these services are running, you can see one is on Docker node 1 and one container is on Docker node 2, right? So if I go Docker ps, one container is running here and one container is running over here. Okay, so let's go to our Docker volume. Okay, so it's going to be again lib Docker volume db underscore data. Okay, so we have the content from our Postgres database, right? So it's going to be the same location here, and then you have the content over here as well. Okay, now if I go back to the NFS share, which is root NFS data, we have same content over here as well, right? So now if you see all three places, NFS share, all your Docker node volumes all have the same data, right? So because this is a new containers or new service running. Okay, now let me create a test file here. Okay, so now if you see, I have a test.txt file. Okay, so this is to show you like I'm going to make some changes in the Docker volume in one of the node, or when we connect to the application, it's going to make changes in one of the node. Okay, Docker volume. But if you see, the same changes getting reflected on the other node as well, right? And it's also reflected on the NFS share. So what does that mean? In this scenario now, irrespective of how you're connecting to the application or your service, if you make some changes, that change is getting reflected in all nodes. So that means you have consistency in all nodes, or volumes are having the same data, and you don't have any issues when you're running the application as a service in dockerswarm. Now let me delete it from your NFS share, or you try to make some changes here. So I'm going to delete this test.txt file. Okay, so now if you see, I have made another change, and this file is gone from here. If I go back to my node 1, it's changed over here, and if I go to node 2, it's changed over here as well. Okay, so that is the complete benefit of NFS share. You mount it as a Docker volume. So you see how we have created that, right? So just to recap, this is the command we have used: docker volume create driver local. So it's going to be the driver local and the name of the volume you want to give, and the option is going to be NFS4. Okay, not just NFS. And the device, this location you can define which location you have exposed from your NFS share. Okay, and this is the IP address of your server. Okay, and read write no log. So this is the overall command for creating the Docker volume, and then you know how to you can attach this volume into the Docker service. But just make sure that you create the Docker volume in all nodes, okay, with the same name. So when you attach, all the nodes will be having the same data. So that is all with respect to this tutorial, and I hope this is informative for you, and thank you for watching. So if you have not subscribed to my channel, don't forget to kindly subscribe, like the video, share, comment, and keep supporting me.